The basement, where nerdiness thrives, and grown men rant about toys.
Oh man, it's good to be back in the basement. It was a
Yeah,
crazy month.
yeah,
Uh,
that sure was.
I was back in the Tromaverse. I was working on another movie called Slaughter at Camp Swine Lake, which is about a fat camp summer camp that gets infected by a zombie virus that's also kind of like a werewolf pig kind of deal. A lot of prosthetic pig monsters running around. But I did some production assistant work and I did a day of sound work. I was additional sound operator slash mixer. So cool addition to my IMDb. It was a really fun time. And I don't know. I hope to keep up within the Tromosphere. It's been a really fun, exciting time in my life. What's been going on in Travis Land?
Not a whole lot, just a lot of chilling at this point.
Whole lot of chilling. That's always good. Got to
Yeah,
leave room for to take a breath.
yeah, man. So,
Especially
like
after,
we said, huh?
especially after the album, like got to leave room to take a breath. That was a big project for you.
Yeah,
Um,
when that album finally released, it was a weekend after it released, I was like, man, I was so fucking happy that I didn't have to go in the studio and work on any songs.
yeah, right. Until the next compilation, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be my solo album next, and then Zach and I are working on a Cheddar Pond too. But I think I might record a random Christmas song this year just to have a special Christmas single come out. But who knows?
That's all. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Right now, we're still kind of wrapping up the Halloween season with our. Because I feel like we're all dealing with a little bit of post Halloween blues, even a couple weeks into November.
Yeah. Yeah, so the idea was we were gonna hold Dune off and do Ghostbusters, Casper, and Hocus Pocus. But now that it's so late, because we had so many things happening each weekend that we were gonna do them, we're just gonna get Casper out of the way and hold Hocus Pocus for next year, and then jump back on the Dune train after this.
It's kind of fitting because Dune is one of those, especially the modern ones that we're going to talk about. Those are kind of like big blockbuster movies, even though they kind of came out in the spring summer season. These are the kind of like big epic movies you'd expect somebody to kind of catch up with around the holiday season. Um, and Hocus Pocus for next year, that's actually pretty fitting because, you know, we could do one and two, make it more of a concise package. Where here, we are technically wrapping up the Ghostbusters, like retrospective, if you will. Technically.
Yeah, because we ever since the first Ghostbusters episode we did, we've been making these jokes that Casper is the sort of de facto explanation on what happened to the Ghostbusters in between
It's kind of
two
the
and
missing link.
Afterlife.
Yeah.
Huh?
It's kind of the missing link between like the original series and Afterlife, because aside from like what we're told in Afterlife, we don't really see what actually happened. But now in retrospect, when you look at this one quick cameo that was just meant to be a gag, it's pretty fitting. And we'll
Yeah.
get more into it. And it's like, I know that in the Ghostbusters lore, there's like different timelines. There's the cartoon universe. There's all different like comic books that probably explained what happened. But aside from it just being a gag, like this movie came out in like 1996. Like it was the first time you saw like a legit Ghostbuster on the big screen, like since two and before the reboot, you know?
95.
Yeah, so I'm taking it. Like this is, like I said, we'll probably expand more on it, but if this is the 90s, Egon's gone and Ray had just quit smoking. So maybe he's not
Yeah.
as into it as he used to. He's going through them with withdrawals.
Yeah. So we forgot to ask you guys. We forgot to do our little hype train posts. So sorry about that.
I put my hands behind my back. I'm sorry, basement dwellers, but if you want, when this is uploaded, feel free to share what you thought in the comments below. Like we're definitely active on Facebook, and I want to start getting more interactive on Instagram as well with the hype posts. Sometimes when the episodes are uploaded, I'll do like a little video to just announce that it's up on the Bloody Chuckles Studios channel, but could definitely get more active with that. Maybe start an Instagram page. But I digress.
Yeah.
We will definitely still take note of what you guys thought in the comments below in a little post, I guess, thing. Sorry about that.
But yeah, so this movie came out in May of 1995. I was 9 years old. Me, Zach, and our parents went to go see it in the theater, and I remember thinking it was cool, but at the same time, I was like 9 years old, and I was just like, this is a kids movie, And for several years, I just never really watched it again because I, never got around to it. And then, hell, Zach told me today that our dad had bought it on VHS. I don't remember this, and that we watched it a few times then. But it was maybe last year. Me and Stas watched it on Netflix, and I was like, this thing isn't as bad as I was making it out to be.
Two questions for your 9-year-old self. Number one, did 9-year-old Travis like all the cursing in the movie? Did that at least make it feel a little bit more adult? Or
9-year-old Travis didn't notice. I remember when he called her a bitch at the end, when Eric Idle called her a bitch at the end. I do remember that, but a lot of the hell and stuff, like what the hell is that, and all that kind of shit. I didn't even notice it when I was a kid.
kind of flew over your head. And then another question
And
is, did you grow up with the Casper cartoons at all? Like, do you have any memories of like the original source material?
no, I always knew of it. The original cartoons and stuff. I always knew of it, but never saw any before the movie. And damn, but I do remember about a year or so after the movie came out, Fox Kids did a cartoon that I believe featured everybody from the movie coming back to do the voices, except for maybe Bill Pullman and Christina Ricci.
Yeah, because there was definitely a resurgence of Casper stuff like after the movie, kind of based on the movie, but not really. I don't know if it
Yeah,
ever
there was the two
got a live
sequels.
sequel.
What was it? There was that Spirited Beginning shit, and then the Casper meets Wendy.
Yeah, and then were those 2D animated?
That I don't know. I think Casper meets Wendy was a live action thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting. Okay, so I'll have to check that one out because, like, growing up, I'm with you. I didn't really grow up with the classic Casper cartoons. I knew of it, but didn't really have any like sources or like didn't really seek it out. But I do remember there were a lot of 3D animated like Casper, like straight to DVD things. And
Yeah, I think that was God. Maybe that's what that was.
they kind of did away with the live action actors altogether and just did like a full CG like thing, which again is just arguably like a reboot of the animation. So I get it, but that's my experience with Casper. This wasn't like a big childhood classic of mine, but it was a movie that I was aware of. Geez, probably watched it in like preschool. Like if I could really like dig deep into my memory, like I do remember watching a couple of movies in like before kindergarten, like early, like you're a toddler. Um,
Damn.
I remember Nightmare Before Christmas scaring the fuck out of me, which it is kind of funny in retrospect that you would show that movie to a bunch of like really young kids, you know, but also kind of cool. Um, but yeah, this is my first time in a while, like really watching it. It always plays on TV, and especially this Halloween season on Freeform, it was playing like crazy. It's usually part of the rotation, but I noticed it playing like whenever I would take a look at the TV or the TV was playing in the background, Casper would be playing. So it was kind of like not a warning, but it was always letting me know that it's like, hey, this is the next episode of Fresh from the Basement. Got to catch up with this. And I don't know. I didn't hate the movie. It's not one of my favorites or anything like that, but um, it's a product of its time, but not like annoyingly so.
Yeah, yeah. It's also apparently the first movie with fully CG main characters.
Interesting. I wanted to do more reading on the actual like production end of this movie because, like, number one, set design is pretty cool. Like, not jaw dropping, but the mansion is pretty sick looking, and the Halloween
Yeah.
party decor is a vibe.
And
But I,
the exteriors I like a lot too. I'm a big fan of that New England look anyway,
yeah,
and the just the town. I do wish there was more shots of the town, which apparently is a real place. Apparently, Friendship, Maine is a real city, which I was so ready for that to just be a made up place.
yeah. I wanted to tie it in with the Stephen King universe since I was already doing tie-ins with the Ghostbusters universe. But then once they
Yeah.
get out of the car and she goes like, "Oh yeah, this is good for like Stephen King," maybe I was like, "Oh shit, he exists in their universe, so it can't."
God, yeah. Yeah. This movie, like, all right, I really like the way the movie looks. And even today, fucking almost 30 years later, the ghosts still look great. And the interactions between the ghosts and the live people still looks pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's cartoony because it's an adaptation of a cartoon, so it's somewhere within like a Roger Rabbit kind of realm where it's not as smooth as like a Roger Rabbit, but there's only like one or two instances where I could say like the CG felt like wonky. Like it's definitely aged, but it never looks like terrible, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Not like some like movies in the early 2000s when they started to rely heavier on CG. Watch them today and it's like, ugh, that's fucking horrible. Uh,
I think
but it's crazy to me.
I think it helps that the characters are very like cartoony, like I said, so it's very squash and stretch. You don't have to worry about like realistic anatomy, but also they're transparent. So that
Mhm.
probably helps with the interactions and masking them into backgrounds and having them, you know, fly around more effectively, you know.
Yeah.
So
And
pretty
hmm?
pretty sick. I would agree that the CG isn't that bad. The one thing that made me sort of feel awkward was when they turned him into an accordion for a second. That was the only like wonky moment of CG that I can think of.
Yeah, when they were singing the Harvest Moon thing.
Yeah, like it kind of didn't look like CGI. It kind of looked like they took like a PNG image of Casper and then just started like, all right, stretch it, squash it, stretch it, you know.
Yeah. But so the movie starts off with the 90s Universal logo. I don't know how long they used this logo before the we have this modern Universal logo now where the Earth has tons and tons of like lights and shit. But I like how this one it turns into the moon. The logo fades out into the moon. I thought that was pretty cool.
Very spooky, good way to get a Halloween movie started. Same thing with just the setup of the opening scene. It's a very classic haunted house setup of kids roaming into the spooky mansion. It's dark. Like it's just a setup for them to see a ghost.
Yeah, they walk in there and they're like, "You don't want the kids at school to think we're chicken, do you?" And basically it's a dare. They got to get a picture at the mansion to say that they went there and that they were there. And but then it's like the one kid's like, "All right, take the picture," and the other kid's like, "What? I need to be in the picture too. You take the picture." And then they start fighting over who's going to take the picture. And I'm like, "Motherfuckers, y'all have two choices: selfie style that shit, or guess what? This is a Polaroid camera. Take a fucking turn."
Exactly. All you need is really 2 seconds in there and you've won the dare.
Yeah, they spent more time in there fighting over who's going to take the picture than they damn needed.
It takes the ghost to be the peacemaker, which of course this I do think this is a good introduction to Casper. He is the friendly ghost, so he's like, guys, don't worry, like I'll take the picture for you. He snatches the camera away from them and he snaps.
Yeah, it really sets the tone of the movie pretty well.
They
Where I really like how like it looks dark and foreboding, but then it does get sort of silly.
silly, tongue-in-cheek, quirky. You know, Casper is a very awkward character, and I don't know like about the original cartoons. Like I always assumed he was just like the ghost of a kid, but in this movie, we're gonna see he's more of like a teenage ghost because like the moment a girl enters his life, he just fucking goes nuts. So
Yeah,
like, his ghost
fucking A, man.
between and like Frozen Empire. Like I'm not looking to make puberty metaphors with like these ghosts, but it's like I keep walking into them like fucking spider web. Like I don't know
Yeah,
what it is about the afterlife that's so like horny. I'm
yeah.
like,
And so
how
I
old?
say what?
Like, because when I'm watching this, I'm like, it seems like they're trying to set up that like he. Well, no, yeah, at the end, like he's about as old as like Christina Ricci, but I'm like, damn, the way he's designed, he looks like Charlie Brown, you know? He looks like
Yeah, he looks like he could be 5.
yeah, and even like his voice, like it's like,
Yeah.
uh,
Like I did not sound like a 7-year-old child when I was 12.
it's like spooky in the way they didn't intend, which is pretty funny. But then also like later in the movie he mentions like, "Oh, I got sick," and like it kind of implies that's how he died. Like you think his ghost form he'd have a bit of like a raspy voice, a bit of a coffee voice.
Yeah. I had pneumonia and
Hey,
I died.
can I get you?
Oh fuck. So I do like when the kids scream and run out of there and Casper's like, "Oh, no, I don't have any friends." And the I do like how the picture comes out of the camera and we watch it develop into the screaming faces of those kids.
Yeah,
Uh,
the credits start.
and then we cut to, man, how many movies was Bill what's Bill Stein What the
Ben
fuck's his name?
Stein.
Ben Stein. That dude was in so many movies in the 90s, dude. And then the Clear Eyes commercials, like he made a living off of his voice.
Even in like the early 2000s, he was still like making appearances in movies, especially if they were like sequels to like stuff that he did in the 90s. Because I know he's in The Mask, and then like
Yeah,
Mask. He's like one of the only actors who comes back. Like not even
yeah.
he could be.
And Loki pulls his face off and puts it in the on one of the mask stands in his little office.
That movie always like weirded me out as a kid, but I'm sure like now with enough drugs, that movie's a fucking masterpiece. We got to do a Son of the Mask fucking episode. Skip the first movie. Like we're just talking about Jamie Kennedy.
Son of the Mask is fucking dog shit. But yeah, I'd definitely be down, be down with it. And it'd be one that would be fun to do Son of the Mask first and then do the Mask.
Oh yeah, it would be like a nice palate cleanser after like you eat this shit and then you get like a nice drink of water.
Yeah. Oh shit. But yeah, so we got Ben Stein, a few years before people start winning his money.
Mhm.
And fucking Eric Idle, man.
And
With
Kathy Moriarty, which
yeah, and I don't know her from anything else. I was even looking at her damn filmography. I'm like, okay, she was in Raging Bull. And everything else is like, say what?
in my notes, that was my joke. Like when she gets this whole thing with like, oh yeah, you didn't get any money. Like I'm imagining her like holding the file. Like I don't need to deal with this shit. I was in Raging Bull.
Yeah. But like everything she's been in, I've either heard of but never seen or never fucking saw it.
She's kind of just like doing this voice the whole time. Like she's
Yeah,
like,
this voice, like this fucking, she sounds like a female Beavis. I don't know. I don't know what she's, I don't know what she's doing.
bro.
And I
Someone
want to say,
like instead of Eric Idle, they should have gotten somebody like Mrs. Harrigan. Stop being a butthole.
yeah, dude. Fucking, I'm wondering, man, because we see her smoking in a couple scenes. Maybe the cigarettes did that to her voice.
Yeah, she's definitely got like that smoker's voice, but then like when she's more angry, she plays, especially when she becomes the ghost later, then it's really like, wow. I'm thinking it must have been really fun to be in like the voiceover booth where it's like just pretty much like go Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
I made a
Uh,
lot of Beetlejuice comparisons with this movie. It is a product of its time, and Beetlejuice was like late '80s, so you notice like in the end of the '80s, early '90s, there's a lot of those like monster best friend movie kind of things. Um, but just in terms of like plot and like set design in this case, like Casper isn't like a Beetlejuice, like he's not like the wacky wild best friends. The uncles are kind of like that, but
yeah.
in terms of like the setup of you have like the strange and unusual daughter, you have like the weird neurotic parents in the new house that's haunted by ghosts. One of my first notes is that like Bill Pullman's character is like basically Bill Pullman's like it feels like he's attempting to go for like an Alec Baldwin type performance like Beetlejuice.
Yeah, it's very very reminiscent of the Maitlands. And then when you finally see his dead wife, she looks fairly similar to Gina Davis with that curly hair.
Right? No, yeah, even like her facial features too. Very much. I was wondering who that actress was because there are a lot of cameos in this movie too, so I wouldn't be surprised if she's like a big name as well. That also
And
gave me ghost vibes as well. So it definitely even the stuff with Casper and Kat, like this weird sort of like romance like it's not a romance, but it kind of is. Like that
Yeah.
reminds me of the Swayze movie a little bit. So it's taking a lot from like late 80s, but also like the tropes of the not early 90s to mid 90s like adaptation. I remember like a couple of years ago on the podcast we were talking about the Brady Bunch movie. Like that's one of them. There was a lot of we're going to bring an old franchise back, like there's a lot of
We're
it,
gonna take
but
them
there
out of
was
the '70s and put them in the '90s.
yeah, there was a good streak of like we're gonna take like old franchises, '90s it up.
And
Adam's
there were some
Family
that
is
were
another
great.
big.
Yeah, like the Brady Bunch movies and the Addams Family movies definitely like are some of the best out of that entire trope.
Totally. Like this is kind of what I'm getting at is that like the success of Beetlejuice kind of went both ways where it's like some people tried like Little Monster style, like we're gonna try to do a Beetlejuice type thing, but then others
Yeah.
kind of took from the look. Were like, this reminds me of Adam's Family. Let's bring back Adam's Family. And I do agree with you that like Brady Bunch and Adam's Family are like the higher tier of like these reboots, and then everything kind of like shot off from there because even down to like we have Christina Ricci in this movie. Like there's no way they weren't like, yeah, we need to like this is kind of a vehicle off the success of the Addams Family movies now that she's a little older.
Yeah. And one thing I wrote this in my notes when you have Eric Idle and that lady and Ben Stein, and he's reading where all the money from who I don't know who the fuck is dead. I don't know if it's her dad or brother or uncle, but so they're in there getting the will read out, and the places he's saying this money is good. $11 million to the Save the Dolphin Foundation. Uh, and one of my favorites, the dyslexic, the dyslexic Dalmatian Foundation.
He has a good heart. He's looking after them pups. Those dyslexic puppies. Well, how will they learn how to read?
I know. I thought it was pretty funny. I was like, "What the shit is this?"
I
But yeah, so
like that Eric Idle gets as well, where they're going over the will, and he's mentioning that like the death of her father has left a great gaping void in her bank. I mean life.
oh yeah. So it was her dad then. Guess I
Uh,
missed that.
Another Ghostbusters comparison is we got a real afterlife scenario here where like she's got her father's will and all she got left behind was like a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere like with some cattle. But then the difference between afterlife and here is like when you see the place it's actually a pretty sweet mansion.
Yeah.
It's not dirt farmer, but still drawing those comparisons. It's weird how like this came out years before Afterlife, but it does still kind of creep its way into canon.
Yeah. And so you could tell she's being a bitch and she wanted the money, but they left her the house. And what the fuck did she say? A measly old mansion, but then he's like,
It was
no.
lousy 50 years ago. Now it's just condemned.
Yeah, that's what it is. Lousy. That's a pretty funny line. It was lousy 50 years ago. Now it's condemned.
Have a good rest of your day as he just kind of slides the paperwork over.
See if you can win my money. Clear eyes.
Yeah, she looks like she could use some clear eyes because she starts fucking taking the paperwork and throwing it into the fire. I like that Eric Idle is like this impish like assistant character named Dibs.
Yeah. And he's like, the deed's in there.
The
And
Dibs is there.
he sees this poem, this treasure poem, uh, and she, she calls him an idiot, but she's the one that threw the shit in the fire.
Yeah, they're already fucking buffoons from like scene one. So like you already know their comeuppance is coming from like a mile away,
Yeah.
like waiting for the shoe to drop. Eric Idle is kind of like the spineless, like yes man between the two, and then she's always fumbling around, and like you said, yeah, blaming him for her mistakes. So there are times where it's entertaining, and then there's other times, like when he sets his hand on fire, where it's a little like I don't know, too
Yeah,
vaudeville.
so they're blowing out the letter, and she looks at him and shit like, you fucking idiot, and he's like, oh, my hand, I think I need a doctor, and she grabs him by the hand and pulls him. But what's funny is like, dude, your hand didn't touch enough fire to warrant the bandage you wind up with when they're driving up to the house, which I think is a funny little reveal because it's like the window's foggy. They pull up to the gates, and then you see this giant bandaged hand wiping the fog off of the windshield.
Yeah, no, it was funny at first where they just kind of follow up on the gag like that. But then I'm talking about like when they enter the mansion, uh,
Yeah,
he's like dibs and he's looking at his arm again and he's like even the scream he lets out is kind of forced, like "Ah!" Like
yeah.
it's not that
Because
funny.
she tells him, they walk in there, she's like, give me a light, or whatever, and he lights up the Zippo, and I'm like, that Zippo is not doing shit light
Right.
wise. You're wasting your fluid, bro. But yeah, he lights his thumb on fire, and it is a slightly extended gag where he's standing there talking, and the flame is high, like it's a 2 foot flame, and she's just like, look at that, Dibs. And you're right, the screams of and fucking just beating his hand. It is pretty
It's like you had a good gag there and then it kind of like, oh, you killed it.
and his hand, he says, set fire to the same hand twice.
You one would say they extinguished the joke.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And so fucking
There's a
Casper starts
treasure
talking.
in
Huh?
the mansion. There's a treasure in the mansion, Goonies style, like a pirate's treasure. That's another thing. He goes to look for the deed in the flames before they roll up. But they all, like you said, he sees this poem about a buccaneer's treasure. So then I do like the shot of like them rolling up to the gates. It reminds me of The Haunting, very classic. That you got the big iron gates, and then there is a bit of a funny joke where she's like, Eric Idle's like, "What do you think?" And she's like, "I think you're gonna get wet."
Oh yeah. And he opens the gate and she just takes the fuck off. Like, doesn't even let him get back in the car.
I'm imagining like being on set, like they're doing the fake rain, you're getting soaked, and I'm like, how many takes did they do of Eric Idle like opening this gate and then just like Mrs. Harrigan, like just running off all goofily, like
I
just
know, like,
and longer.
they would have been close to giving him pneumonia like Casper.
Right, right. Just like let's see how much Eric Idle could withstand. Turn up the rain. Let's make it like it started off as like a drizzle, and then they're like, let's turn it into a storm. See how this take goes.
Yeah. And so, yeah, Casper's like calling out to him. And this is funny. She's basically telling him what to ask, but she says, are you a drug dealer? And he doesn't want to say that. He's like, are you a transient?
Which is funny. Like it would have been funny if he was like, "Are you transparent?" Because then, well, yes, he is.
Yeah, and so they finally say, show yourself. And he pops out, and they start screaming. And I do like that the screams are natural screams from most of these people and not stock screams.
Yeah, because sometimes like movies will just fill in like either a scream sound effect. Sometimes they
Mhm.
do a bit of like I said, like vaudeville, goofy kind of like side of the mouth screams, but like, hey, it's a family comedy movie.
Yeah.
Also, what would you do if you saw a ghost like that?
And so he's like, no, no, don't scream, you'll wake them up. And this is pretty cool the way they start spiraling out of the floor and shaking the house. It's fairly sinister.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. It's a great like introduction to the uncles before you really meet them in person. And
Yeah.
it goes back into what I was saying about like the art design of the movie is even though like the mansion isn't like extremely like elaborate or like, you know, like super like in your face aesthetic, I do like the little touches that it has. Like there is a spiral pattern on the main floor when you walk in, so it is
Yeah.
that like the uncles are literally like spiraling out of the spiral. Like that's their little summoning area, basically. I agree with
It,
you. It's pretty sinister, especially since not really the uncles aren't really the main villains, but they are like antagonists at first.
yeah. And so next we have them running out, and we cut to a few cameos. Right, this is when they call Father Guido Sarducci.
I do kind
Is
of wish
this?
this montage went on a little bit longer with like the Dan Aykroyd one being the end. Like it is still, but it's like they only try like two people before they get the construction crew in. I definitely
Yeah, yeah. Three would have been a magic bit here.
yeah,
Uh,
there has to have been one that was like on the cutting room floor. Unless
oh, you know what? There was. Supposedly, they filmed a cameo with that lady that plays on Poltergeist.
that's sick. She comes in like with her voice like there are spirits here.
Yeah, yeah. Apparently, they shot that, but for whatever reason, it's not in the movie.
I was gonna
I
say
did.
yeah, either get her or like that
That would have been perfect.
Tito from The
That
Exorcist.
would have that would have connected motherfucking Ghostbusters with fucking Poltergeist.
Well, it is interesting that that hit the cutting room floor because I don't know the connections like between movie companies, like business
Well, see,
wise. Like
this was made by Amblin Entertainment, which is the Steven Spielberg thing,
that's what I was
which
going to say. Yeah,
in turn also made Poltergeist. So I don't know why they cut that shit.
yeah, especially because I was about to say like Ghostbusters is Columbia, so I'm wondering like
Yeah,
how Universal got the rights to it unless they're kind of like a subsidiary. Like that's some research worth doing. But it's weird that the Ghostbusters cameo stayed, but the
yeah.
one that they have probably more of the rights to hit the floor. Maybe it was something to do with the actress.
Yeah, I have no idea. But yeah, three little cameo bits here would have been perfect, but Guido Sarducci shows up first, and this is a character that would be on Saturday Night Live a lot, and I know him from hell. Because of him, this also connects it to an episode of Married with Children, because he shows up to exercise the dog when they bring, I think it's when Buck dies or whatever on Married with Children,
Oh, so this is
and
like a whole character that this guy does. Like
yeah, yeah.
I wasn't familiar with the cameo.
He also plays the character on there's this hip hop group that only made two albums called Handsome Boy Modeling School, and it's Prince Paul with Dan the Automator, who you would know from De La Soul and the first Gorillaz album, and Dan the Automators did a lot of music for Del the Funky Homo Sapien and stuff, and the albums are mostly collaboration albums where Prince, Paul, and Automator make all this music and get other people to sing on the stuff. So you get people like Mike Patton, Mars Volta's on a track. Really good albums, really good shit. But Guido Sarducci plays the character talking about how he went to the Handsome Boy Modeling School, kind of in between songs and shit. These silly, funny little spoken word bits, but yeah, another little tidbit of where you could hear him.
Definitely link me to those albums. I want to take a listen to them. I'm always looking for more new music to listen to, and a lot of those cameos, if you will, that you just mentioned on the album sound pretty sick. But what's just the character? Is that he's just like a faulty priest?
Yeah, I guess so, because I've never really seen him in much. It's it's the voice, it's his look.
It's the delivery.
Yeah.
He's got this very Weird Al, like Frank Zappa, Emo Phillips kind of. That's what I first thought. I was like, is this Emo Phillips in like a mustache and wig, you know? But then I was like, nah, it's not him.
Hell no. But yeah, so he walks up in there, talking about. She's like, "Do you have experience?" And he's like, "No, I can't do that voice." But
It's a big piece of cake, you know.
he
It's a very
he walks.
voice.
Yeah. So he walks in there, and you just hear shit going crazy and a bunch of laughter. And he walks back out with his head turned backwards, and he's got like the green exorcist throw up all over him.
They slimed him and essentially killed him.
And what's funny is that effect doesn't look bad either 30 years later. Like it looks goofy looking at it, but at the same time it's like that's not bad. And when he turns around to face him and shit, and yeah, it's not a bad effect 30 years later.
It's kind of on the same effect as the neck twist effect from Freddy versus Jason, and that's saying something because Freddy versus Jason was 2003, and that neck twist does look pretty fucking goofy in 2003. Like for 1995, I agree with you. It still looks like silly, not realistic, but you're still looking at it like, like I said, my mind goes towards like he took 5 steps and then just fucking hit the ground. Like he's not living through that.
Yeah. But so then yeah, boom, Ghostbusters cameo. This is great because then it just cuts to chairs and shit being thrown out, and then you see him, Ray fucking Stans running out, and he's like, "Who you gonna call? Someone else." And there it is, y'all.
There it is. And I mean,
This is
we've been talking about it for the past couple of podcasts now, but like rewatching this movie, I'm dead serious that I don't mind it being part of my like headcanon Ghostbusters timeline. Like this movie is just slightly more kiddie than Ghostbusters 2. So it is kind of fitting that it's like it moved on from this, you know?
yeah. And what's even crazier is to me the ghosts, the uncles and Casper, look like they could be part of the same Slimer species of ghost.
Oh yeah, dude. Like he looks well, Casper looks exactly like the ghost on the logo, basically.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Which I'm sure they were inspired by Casper when designing the design, but I recently found out an interesting tidbit about the Ghostbusters logo. I was chilling out with my cousin and we were watching the real Ghostbusters cartoon, and we were wondering, does the ghost on the logo have a name? That's a question that never really popped into my head. Like, because you know how, like, Star Wars, every little background character has a name or there's a little story behind it. My cousin asked, like, do you think, like, the ghost on the logo has a name? So I looked it up, and that little ghost that's between the cross, according to either like Dan Aykroyd or maybe like Ivan Reitman. I'm not sure who officially coined the name, but the ghost is named Moogly.
Ah.
So I would have never expected it to be named like I knew it was going to be named something silly, but like Moogly.
Fucking Moogly the ghost.
Yeah, Oogly Moogly.
Great googly moogly. But let
No.
me go smoke a cig real quick.
Oh, perfect. But there's a deep Ghostbusters cut for you.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
All right, quick
Fucking movie.
slash piss break.
But we'll be back in a minute. And back on this Ghostbuster cameo, apparently, like Ghostbuster fans don't like this cameo. They think it's a cowardly portrayal. But think about this. Ray is going up in there by himself, either he left the trap in there, because what are you going to do with just your proton pack, you know? So at this point in Ghostbuster history, Ray is the only Ghostbuster left trying to hold it down. Egon is at the farmhouse trying to get Zool. Uh, Fucking Venkman is scamming women, and
Quote unquote returning to academia.
yeah, and Winston is growing his money empire. We don't know where he's getting all this money, but he's a rich motherfucker by the time we get to Afterlife.
Yeah, Janine might still be there, but for all we know, he might not even be running this out of the firehouse. He might have left from the fucking bookstore, you know, like, all right, like, this doesn't.
He's trying to build a new chapter in Maine.
Or again, just because they really have run on hard times, he's like, I guess I'll drive all the way out here, kind of like Bill Pullman. Like, if I don't find anything here, but yeah, I love the jingling of his proton pack and gear as he runs away. Very realistic sound effects. And you do mention a good point that it's like, yeah, it's not necessarily like a realistic portrayal of a Ghostbuster because what's it called? They get defeated by a vacuum cleaner like Luigi's Mansion style later. So I don't know how they did against a proton stream. It's worth a fanfic story of its own right.
Yeah.
But I do realistically think if he had maybe even one more Ghostbuster with him, like if Winston was with him, like they'd be able to possibly win. But also, the uncles are a rowdy bunch. They're like fucking Slimers who could talk. So,
Yeah.
again, given one Ghostbuster, and again, now given the modern canon, going off of what we've been saying this whole time, that this is within the timeline. Like, yeah, this is like during a really bad time. It's not just that like, hey, that the technology was faulty. It could just be that like Ray's motivation was bad too. You know what I mean? They were all on hard times. He was rusty off his game. Again, he didn't even shave his mustache for the mission.
Yeah, man. He looks weird with the mustache. Damn, but yeah, so fucking Erica was like, so what do we do now? And she's like, well, what do we normally do when something stands in my way? And boom, wrecking ball, they're trashing the house. And then the fucking uncles trip out and scare all the construction workers away. And I was watching, there's a construction worker on the balcony, and he grabs hold of a rope and is about to start swinging or rappelling down while all the other construction guys are running out of the house. Kind of funny.
Yeah, it's almost like we
And,
set up like old timey comedy speed as they're all like,
yeah, it's almost like the Munsters.
house. Very much so. That's another comparison we could draw it to. That was like one of the reboots of the '90s.
Yeah, and God, it's sad that Rob Zombie's Munsters is better than some of those Munsters things they did in the 90s.
Facts. The lab later in this movie, Casper, like I was thinking, man, all this lab needs is fucking Richard Brake and Floop.
Hell yeah.
I miss those guys.
So, what the fuck happens next? Is this when it cuts to Casper watching TV?
Yeah, he's flipping through the TV and kind of like in a Beetlejuice style like edit and kind of like Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, we get another like TV exposition dump.
Yeah. And this one was hard copy, which that's another thing that happened a lot in the 90s was hard copy or inside edition, like those sort of semi prime time news shows like that. Uh, they did one on Dumb and Dumber when they're talking about the kid. He was given the dead parakeet, and he was like, "I just thought he was really quiet."
It's like a 60 Minutes kind of like, or like a Good Morning America, like newsreel. Before they cut to the news, it's funny that I mentioned at the beginning that the kids are seeing a ghost because that's the first thing that's playing on the TV is a cartoon lady like ghost.
Yeah, apparently that's from a Casper cartoon.
That's what I figured. But that's pretty weirdly meta. So hey, if they can reference Stephen King within the universe, then hey, I guess like Derry, Maine is in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Space is warped, and
I mean, hell,
this.
Stephen King is just about in all of his movies anyway, so that would make sense that he lives in that universe.
He's the Watcher.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Bill
But
Pullman in this movie is kind of like a bioexorcist in and of himself, but not like for the living. He's a therapist for the dead? Question mark.
yeah, and this is a cool little expedition where I do like this kind of exposition story, especially because I did like shows like this back in the day. Um, and yeah, it's telling you about Dr. Harvey. Um,
Dr. James Harvey. I
that's what it is,
wanted to call him
James.
Steve Harvey.
Do what?
I always wanted to call him Steve Harvey as I was writing the notes, but then they kept saying James, and I was like, right, James.
President Whitman.
But yeah, he's an ectotherapist, I guess, and I like how he uses terms like the living impaired, as I like to
Yeah,
call.
yeah, yeah.
They said
Which,
after the sudden and unexpected death of his wife Amelia, Dr. Harvey gave up on conventional psychiatry and some say conventional sanity.
yeah. And then, dude, when they start harassing Christina Ricci, she's leaving from school, and they're asking her all these questions, and then straight up, dude's like, Kat, does your father hurt you in any way?
And it's like, dude, that's another thing about the exposition dump that isn't as smooth as say like the Frozen Empire one is that like they even go down to like Cat, short for Kathy, like just in case
Yeah,
people didn't know.
yeah, like we really didn't need that.
I would
With
love to see Bill Pullman on and Bill wait, hold on a second. I would love to see Bill Pullman's character and Pete Venkman from Ghostbusters like get together, whether it's on like Venkman's TV show from Ghostbusters 2 or whether, it would be funny to see Dr. Harvey in like the shock machine from Ghostbusters 1.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, Harvey could be on Venkman's show, and you got a guy that just wants to terminate ghosts, and you have another guy that wants to help them go cross over.
Yeah, it's actually like a crossfire kind of debate. Like maybe,
Yeah.
oh, okay, in the Ghostbusters lore, because like that show was getting canceled in Ghostbusters 2, that was their like shot in an offshoot, like after the events of this movie. Because I assume that was another note I took later on in this movie that if they ever did like a real honest to God sequel, like Beetlejuice style, which I doubt, um, we start to see throughout the movie that Christina Ricci is a better ghost therapist than her dad. She would definitely be the one in the sequel, like carrying on the torch, because she's the one that kind of realizes that ghosts, like, in kind of being free of your mortal form and body, you're also kind of free of your memories of everything too. So I noticed that a lot that like between like Casper throughout the movie and then her dad in like the tail end of the movie, she's really good at fucking bringing the memories of the dead back. So that could be something that like again another fan film idea like continuing the Casper and Ghostbusters lore.
Yeah.
Because by the time you get to Frozen Empire, like you could say Bill Pullman could be on Ray and Podcast's show, but like I don't know. It kind of seems like by that point, like it would be Christina Ricci running her family business.
Yeah.
But
Damn.
I'm not gonna let this go. There's definitely gonna be more crossover in this universe. When there's something strange in your neighborhood, okay, you're not just gonna call someone else. There are moments in this movie where I'm surprised they didn't call the Ghostbusters back.
Yeah. So while Casper sees this, he's like, "Oh man, that girl is hot," basically.
Yeah.
And fucking, it's like, have you never seen a teenage girl before watching TV, bro? Uh, and so he
It's just kind of
beams.
at first sight.
Say what?
It's just kind of like love at first sight for him. And then like
Yeah.
it all happens kind of fast too, since this is still like the first act of the movie where it's like he immediately like falls in love with her, and then like she immediately gets like called to the house because Carrigan is watching the damn
Yeah.
TV ad as well.
He like beams it to her TV at her hotel, and he possesses the TV and moves it closer and closer to her, and she's on the phone bitching about how she hates fish, and turns around and sees the hard copy um, piece, and is like, "Oh, I need to call him." And yeah, you're right. It just happened so fast. And so right after this, is this where Pullman, Bill Pullman and Christina Ricci are headed to Maine?
They're traveling cross country from Los Angeles, and we get an ironic Frank Sinatra usage with "That's Life," pre-Joker, like ironic usage because hey, it's a movie about ghosts.
Yeah. And she's already not having it. She turns the fucking music off, all bitchy like a teenager,
Yeah,
and is
in 2 years.
complaining. She's like, in 2 years, I've been to 9 different schools. Like, is that even possible?
She's finally letting them know how she feels, and Lone Star says that she sounds like her mother. And we get a real talk moment. Like things actually get pretty like serious for a second, where she's like, you're not. She's not a ghost. You're not gonna find him. So we do realize that, like, again, it explained it in the exposition dump, but now we're actually getting like to see like what they're really like, and this is just like a big, at first, before they realize like how real ghosts are, it is kind of like a coping mechanism for the death of, his wife, that like he's still holding out hope to like communicate with her one last time. It kind of reminds me of From Dusk Till Dawn a little bit, honestly, like with the Priest family, where it's like they just lost, you know, the mom, and they're just dealing with it in different ways. Uh, Even from like the one little clip of Christina Ricci on the TV during the exposition dump, like you could already tell that she's just trying to be like a quote unquote normal like teenage girl. She's just trying to go to school and fit in. And with her dad like moving her around everywhere, like she just can't, and it's getting frustrating.
Yeah, she's like, I just wish I could make a friend. And he's like, well, we're going to Friendship, Maine. Maybe you will make a friend, and maybe I will too. And what does she say? She says, well, what are you like, single and 40? And God, what the fuck does she say?
She basically just like fucking roasts the shit out of him.
Yeah,
I don't
I
remember
can't
the
remember
exact line, but
what
it's
it
like,
was.
oof, like give your dad some hope.
And so, yeah, they head on out that way.
He does pull
And,
over for a second and make a pinky promise with her, which will become important later because that's like the
oh,
memento. But he's like, if I don't find anything here, like I'll give up the ghost hunting for good, basically.
Yeah, I'll be a normal therapist again.
I'll be a normal dad.
Oh Jesus! So yeah, then we get some nice swooping shots of Maine.
Yeah, I do like that there is an immediate, like, there is a clear environment change. Because I'm sure a lot of this was just shot in Los Angeles. I'm not sure. But you do see they go from, like, the more deserty kind of, like, not
Ocean,
tropical, but
green,
yeah,
and boats.
the greener of Los Angeles to, like, the more fall time, like, reddish, like, orange
Yeah,
color of Maine.
fucking marinas and boats and water.
And all kinds of Maine shit.
And so they pull up to the house, and that's when, yeah, he's like, oh, this place is pretty nice. And she's like, yeah, if you're Stephen King. This movie, like, she is filled with snarky lines like that are just fucking stupid to me.
Yeah, they don't really hit the mark where it's like I see what they're going for. Again, they're trying to make her like a Lydia Dietz, but like, and it's not like she's like devoid of personality, but like, yeah, it's a little forced. Like, there's the scene where, and this one's a little funnier of a line, but it's still kind of on par with what we're talking about. Like when the ghosts finally reveal themselves and Bill Pullman's running down the hallway with Christina Ricci over his shoulder, and she's like, "You know, I could walk."
Yes, I can walk, you know.
Like I'm wondering, I'm like that. Was that an improv? It's like it doesn't feel natural enough to be an improv. It's like I'm imagining them doing like a bajillion takes of like, all right, now turn Christina into the camera. Now say the line, you know?
Yeah, say something else. And she has another line like that with they put Casper in the Lazarus machine, and she's like, how do I do this? I couldn't even get my easy bake oven to work. Like, derp, derp.
Yeah, like sometimes it's not like completely unbearable. Like I wouldn't say there's any like unlikable characters. Like even the villains with how doofy they are, they're not threatening. And then like halfway through the movie, they do just kind of drop out for a little bit. You know, they kind of
Yeah,
get
they
with the
out for
school
a
boys.
minute. Which, thank Thankfully, yeah, because I mean, we had a lot of them at the beginning, and we get a chunk of them at the end.
They are the
So
main villains, so I do kind of wish it would check in with them a little bit more. But yeah, it would have just been more like bumbling around. And again, they do kind of just get like there's three different like antagonistic like side plots. It's like it turns into like Bill Pullman with Stinky, Fatso, and Stretch, and then it turns into Cat with the school bullies. Like the school
yeah,
stuff definitely feels like the most like you gotta have it, but it's also like the most like unfleshed out.
yeah, it is so come and go so quick.
Like there's that
Uh,
boy Vic that
she falls for this kid as quick as Casper fell for her when he saw her on the TV.
yeah, dude, and like I get that that Casper's dead, but like literally like right in front of Casper, she's like, "I'll go out with you," you know what I mean? And it's like, damn. I mean, Casper was stalking her, but
Oh God, yeah. And so they get out there and they meet with Kerrigan and Dibbs, and it's a little weird. She grabs her chin and shit, and they're like turning her face back and forth, talking about you got a beautiful daughter and shit. I don't know what's going on here.
yeah, they were really weirdly touchy feely with her.
And she's like, "You're kind of hurting my face."
Yeah, that's another one. Just like, you're hurting my face, butthole.
Yeah, and so
Nice daughter you got here.
yeah, get him the check, Dibbs.
Do the voice.
Oh my god. And yeah, so she's like, I'm not going to give you this money until you get the ghosts out of here. And he's like, well,
off for a moment. Like, even though I said like it would just be filler with them bumbling around, like they do say like, "Oh, we're gonna be watching you really closely."
yeah, seriously. And they don't show up for like 4 more days.
Yeah, they're watching shit. They ain't watching shit.
Damn.
They're watching
But she
Casper
tells
on Hulu.
do what?
They're watching Casper on Hulu. It's just a bad joke that landed because it's like they don't show up in the movie, so it's like they might as well be watching the movie.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
watching it on. They're not watching it on Hulu. They're watching it on Bulu.
Ooh. I was about to say, yeah, cut that joke out, but you saved it. You got it. I was about to.
Damn.
I set my own hand on fire there. Like, oh.
But so he tells them that it could take years, and she's like, "No, we don't need years. We need it done in a few days." Oh, that hurts so bad.
And here's your flowers. It's kind of like an Emperor Palpatine after a while, just like, yeah,
Oh, Rocco.
Mrs. Big
Damn, but yeah, she's like, yes, forget it. And yeah, so we'll be watching you closely. And they leave. And they walk in the house. And one thing I noticed was Christina Ricci is carrying her clothes in a big old trash bag.
Yeah, I noticed that. She's just kind of like lumbering it around, and she's going around the house, and Casper be on the prowl. Like,
Yeah, dude,
don't
creepily following her.
like in the Nostalgia Critic review, like there was a lot of jokes of like Casper being creepy and like slowing it down. But I mean, it is true rewatching it that it's like you can re-edit this movie with like different music and it could be an effective horror movie. Which, by the way,
Yeah.
the score to the movie is nothing really to like shake your tail feather at. Like there's one moment, like when the uncles start causing shit, where the score starts popping off, but it's really just kind of again your typical Ghostbusters 2, like whimsical '90s boom bum 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 bum.
Yeah, the score is good. It's yeah, like you said, it's just very more whimsy than horror-y. And there's a few pieces in the score that are really good. Um, but it's James Horner, and that dude's pretty damn good and has done a lot of shit. He's done a lot of James Cameron movies, and
Yeah,
uh, so it's like at least we got somebody good. I am surprised that we didn't get Danny Elfman.
yeah, because it does feel like something that would be like something on his radar, but again, it is kind of like wallpaper music. For the most part, it's nothing really like too spectacular, but then you get a few good pops in there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
And then it's all like
like
the
the
songs.
the kind of sentimental theme that plays like when he's remembering how he died and when the mom comes back, like that's a really good piece, and the other ones are just not as good.
Yeah. Like nothing's bad. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
it's just generic.
Yeah, and but a year later we get Robert Zemeckis. No, not Robert Zemeckis. Peter Jackson pulling Danny Elfman to score. Hell, and another movie about a bunch of ghosts that are hanging out
Oh, we
in the Frighteners.
yeah, we got to do the Frighteners.
Do what?
We got to do the Frighteners on an episode. I've actually never seen it.
Wow, really?
Yeah, no, it's on my movie watching list. It's actually on the top of my movie watching list. Like I should get to it.
Dude, yes.
The Frighteners. Oh no.
The Frighteners is good as fuck.
I've heard, I like at first when I was first getting into like my movie watching, like, figuring out what I liked. I remember hearing like it had a mixed reputation, but over the years, like hearing a lot of love for it. So
Yeah. It has a lot of interesting sort of ghost rules in it.
alrighty, I'll have to check it out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, man. But
Yeah.
um, so she's found her room, and he's just stalking her, and the fucking Bill Pullman comes in there talking about, "Hey, how about I help you unpack?" Uh, and she's like, "Why? We're gonna be leaving in a few days anyway."
But yeah, they unpack the picture of the mom.
Yeah, he's just helping her unpack so he can look fondly at her childhood.
Yeah,
Like, oh, this Raggedy Ann doll. Oh, I remember when I got you this when you were a little baby.
but she ends up moving into Casper's room, and that's where, like, again, the puberty metaphor really rears its ugly head because, like, he is just like way too excited. He's like, "There's a girl in my bed." Yeah,
Yeah, like, dude, you're
that's
12.
just me, like, feeling this. So, like, this is fucking weird.
Like, dude. Uh, but yeah, so
If anything,
she
I'd be
like
like, "There's a fucking what is this girl doing in my bed?" Like, if anything, I would see it more as like a home invasion, which is what the uncles see it as.
be like the others.
Yeah, right. I'd be like, it's a reverse of the Ghostbusters theme. Like, it's not the invisible man sleeping in your bed when there's a normal ass girl sleeping in your bed.
Oh my god, hell yeah.
Who are you gonna call? Beetlejuice.
Seriously. Um, so she goes to lay down and he turns himself into a pillow and she's
Yeah,
like,
essentially, like beats the shit out of him.
yeah. And so how does she wind up seeing him?
Well, because he's trying to like introduce himself awkwardly, basically, and she keeps like going through shit, like tossing stuff behind her shoulder. She doesn't realize like Casper's behind him, so like she like throws something in his mouth, but then like he says something and she turns around and he faints.
Yeah, she faints and then he runs to this nasty sink and it's pouring out that muddy, rusty water at first. And then he soaks himself up and then wrings himself out over her. But it's like, it looks like he's peeing on her.
Yeah, it's really weird. I was gonna make a note about that, but I didn't even really know how to describe it. Like, yeah, he soaks himself up or wrings himself off on her. What I do like about this scene though is that they get the whole like believing in ghost things out of the way really early in the first act.
Yeah,
Like,
real quick.
I
Real
can
quick.
see other family movies making that like the whole dynamic between the parent and the daughter, where like vice versa, one or the other doesn't believe in ghosts, and even with it like right in front of them, like the whole movie, they're like, there has to be some explanation. Like from this point on, like she immediately reports what she saw to her dad. Because number one, like, you're shocked you saw a ghost, but number two, like she knows that, you know, her dad's into this stuff. And then
Yeah.
as she starts like getting crazy, I love how they're in the closet, and again, like within the first act, you get the classic line out of the way, like, "Oh, sorry for not believing you." And there's even an effective like gag. It's pretty funny when he's like, "Oh," he's like, he seems to be like effectively responding to it, and he's like, "Apologize later," and he slams
Yeah.
her face.
Yeah. But I was gonna say when he's peeing on her, it's like, is that the ghost of R. Kelly?
Maybe it's the ghost
Uh,
of the sheet because that's why he's all white. He was turned yellow because the water was yellow when he fucking goes into that nasty ass sink.
yeah. But yeah, so Yeah, you're right. She's telling him da 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 da, and this is uh they're running around, and what's funny is he is almost not believing it because he's like opening the closet, looking under the bed, telling no ghosts here, almost like he is afraid to believe that ghosts are real.
Yeah,
Like he's
I'm not sure.
to
Like
do
he made up
this.
his own rules in his head, you know, of what the
Yeah,
F was like. Like maybe he thought he would be talking to like a voice, but not actually like seeing anything. But nah,
yeah.
dude, it's blobby. It's a ghost.
And so then the uncles come back. Well, actually, I wanted to say before she finds her room, she walks into the uncle's room, and this is another one of her stupid, snarky lines where she's like, "Stretch, fatso, stinky. God, what horrible parents. I wonder where Doc and Dopey sleep. Derp. Ugh."
Yeah, the only thing cool about that moment is that again, it's another kind of like subtle introduction. It's like, okay, now we like for those who don't know Casper, it's like now we know their names. And then like
Yeah.
by this point where we're up to now when they're on the porch, like now they totally now they're introduced. But right
Yeah.
before that, like when she's telling her dad about like what's going on, this is like the first time like I think we hear him call her the nickname Bucket, which is just a
Yeah.
weird nickname. It's just some Michael Jackson ass nickname.
Yeah. why? Why do you call her Bucket?
Yeah, like what's the story behind that? Like, did she put a bucket on her head like when she was a toddler? Which number one, unsafe, but number two, um, like is it
And
like
then
where
weirdly
does it come
enough,
from?
there's like other Bucket references coming up. He gets his foot stuck in the bucket when he is stomping around the hallway.
Yeah, like what's the bucket motif?
And Eric Idle when Kerrigan is chasing him around with the axe, he dumps a bucket of shit on the floor.
And then there's that moment where the Mr. Bucket board game comes to life and starts like sucking on everybody's balls.
Yeah, spitting the balls on everybody's face.
I'm Mr. Bucket, pop your balls in my mouth.
um, but yeah, so the uncles show up, and man, when I was a kid, I liked them, but they are almost insufferable, man.
Yeah, we got like Fatso played by Brad Garrett, which is a good like voice actor for the role, but like yeah, a lot of their shit is just either just like screaming or puns
It is annoying.
or references. Like again, they are definitely supposed to be like the Beetlejuice like type of the movie where it's like we're wacky, we're rude, we're obnoxious, we
The their one-liners are so fucking bad.
yeah, and I get that they're supposed to be like antagonistic, like bullies towards like Casper, but like yeah, it's not even like in a lovable loser kind of way. Like they are some of the worst characters. Like I didn't hate them as the movie goes along, and they just kind of become like the Gremlins, basically, just like odd side characters. Like they become fine, but
Yeah. When they first show up and they're fucking around doing their thing, it is fucking annoying.
yeah.
Uh, I mean, and then like it's like, damn. No, here's a question: are these really your uncles, Casper? Who are these motherfuckers, and why are they in your house?
I was wondering that too, because once they get to the point where they're like, I don't remember like my past, and I'm like, yeah, then they're not even really related to you. Like, why
Yeah,
are you with them?
man, they are assholes. Man, they are assholes. But yeah, they show up. I guess they scared some horses. I don't fucking know. At a horse track, and the kids like, "Oh, did y'all?" Or Casper's like, "Did y'all enjoy the vacation? How about y'all go back outside?" And he's like, "Fucking, what are you trying to get us out of the house?" And I guess they see what the fuck happens? They see Cat and James.
Well, no, he mentions that like I just want to make you guys dinner under like the harvest moon, and that's where they do the weird fucking accordion effect, and they fling Casper to the moon.
Yeah. Oh God, it's fucking annoying.
Yeah, and then the uncles scare the crap out of Lone Star, and then like Army of Darkness style, like dive into him.
Yeah, his little scream, his little side mouth scream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's a pretty good little scream too. Like I said, I like that the screams are mostly natural in this movie. Uh, and yeah, they dive on into him, and it's almost like fat. So how come the fat guy is always the last one? That's another trope in movies like this. The fat guy is always the last one to like go in something.
And he's always
You know.
like to get stuck. That's why it's usually the last because he like cap it off with the gag that's like, oh, and he struggles to get inside.
Yeah, always. My God. And they do it a few times, but it's almost like he's being flushed when he goes down into Dr. Harvey's mouth.
You. They're getting an instant look at Dr. Harvey.
And so they wake him up and he's washing his face off in the nasty sink.
And this is a
And
really SNL type moment where it's like, now we're gonna just wheel in the cameos.
yeah, here's as many as we could get, and these cameos don't make sense. Uh,
I will find a way to make sense of them though, because it's like we get Clint Eastwood, Rodney Dangerfield, Mel Gibson, and the only one that I find is like really fucking sick is like then the Crypt Keeper. So it's like, all right, we could add Tales from the Crypt into this. Uh,
yeah,
and the Tales from the Crypt Keeper does like the Home Alone pose, like ah.
yeah, so I'm like, okay, children in 1995 don't know who the fuck Clint Eastwood is. They don't know who the fuck Rodney Dangerfield is, and they damn sure don't know who the fuck Mel Gibson is.
It's a little
Yeah.
something for the adults, but one detail that I do like about it, like just to kind of make sense of the gag, is like you can kind of tell which of the uncles is like choosing which impression. Like you can kind of
Yeah,
say that like, oh, Stretch is doing the Clint Eastwood, and then Fatso's doing the Rodney Dangerfield, and then Stinky's probably doing the Mel Gibson. But then they all kind of come together at the end for the Crypt Keeper.
yeah, that kind of makes sense. Um, but yeah, I do like what Clint Eastwood says. He's like, "I'm gonna kill your wife and your daughter," or some shit.
Yeah,
I'm
just
gonna,
so random, like I'm gonna kill you.
yeah. It was like, damn, that's pretty dark for a kids movie.
I'm just surprised they actually like got these guys. Like it's not some weird CG like rendering of them. It's like they actually them for like a split second.
Yeah, yeah. He turns into Mel Gibson and he's like checking himself out, like, oh yeah.
He's like, I could get used to this. Maybe not in a couple of years though, but for right now.
Yeah, there was a shot I forgot to mention when earlier on when Kerrigan is trying to knock the house down and she's like, do something, Dibs, and she's standing there smoking and he pulls that lever and it makes the fucking wrecking ball trash her car and like she doesn't even flinch.
Like
That
it's
was
a
always
good shot, but it's so like goofy '90s movie. Like whoops.
yeah, it's so goofy, but I love it. But yeah, back to where we were. Uh, so this is when he grabs Cat and they're running through the hallway. And yeah,
Oh,
you're right.
you're
Like,
forgetting her
huh?
hilarious line of like, "I could walk."
I can walk you now.
Laugh track. There should
Yes.
be like a fucking like audience laughing and clapping after that.
Oh my God, yeah. It would make it worse.
That's so Casper. We'll be right back after these messages.
Casper and his friendly friends.
His friendly friends and his not so friendly uncles.
Yeah, oh my God, Casper and his not so friendly uncles. That changes everything.
We got a game changer here.
So fucking
This is where the music starts popping off. Like as Pullman's running down the hallway, he puts Christina Ricci in the closets, like, don't come out. Like, but then they roll him up in the damn like visually, like if they just threw out the puns from the like I know the uncle's gotta say something, but if they threw out the puns, like this is a pretty fun sequence of like they roll him up in the rug and toss him down the stairs. But it's just
yeah,
interfered with like, California roll.
yeah, and he slams the door on Christina Ricci, and he's like, "Hey boys, we got a closet case here." Like, oh god, it's just so annoying. And you're right with the California roll, and then the smellogram. Fuck,
And then
oh, it's so fucking annoying.
he uses that stink attack just like two times in the same fight scene, like the same exact way. Like they repeat the gag. And this is where the Ghostbusters fans get mad that it's like, Ray couldn't beat them, but like Bill Pullman could beat them with a vacuum cleaner and a plunger.
Yeah, yeah,
But it is
yeah.
still a fun sequence, him like going up the stairs and like sword fighting with the plunger.
Yeah, it's a fun bit. It's a fun bit. And what is funny too is when he grabs the vacuum cleaner. This is this the first cuss word? Where
What
he's
the
like,
hell is that? Yeah, I think it's the first one in my memory.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And like, what the hell is that thing? And like, you
They're
don't know what
so
a
messy.
vacuum is in
They're
your
so
own house?
they're so dirty they never seen it.
Like, oh my God. But yeah, so he's sucking them up, and yeah,
Oh,
Fatso's the
oh, yeah,
last one.
they got him.
And oh man, they say all three of them say something like as they're getting pulled in, and I can't remember what the fuck Stretch and Stinky say, but fucking Fatso, he gets stuck, and he's like, "This sucks."
Obviously,
Yes.
like if they didn't say it, like someone's dad in the audience would. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the other two uncles say, but also like, so yeah, they're so messy that they don't know what a vacuum cleaner is, but also like, what year did they die in that they're like this fucking modern contraption?
Yeah, and then it's not even that modern of a vacuum. It's one of those fucking rolly long floor ones
Yeah,
that
and they get
like by
stuck up in
in the
it.
90s in the 90s those were vacuums you only saw in old horror movies and or your grandparents' closet.
And it actually contains them for a little bit. Like I know they break out. I don't remember necessarily how, but it's like, damn, like it's actually like unless they're fucking with Bill Pullman, like and just taking a moment to rest, it's like what the like how is that holding them?
Oh, and then he's like, "Hey, which one of y'all are? Was it? Would you stop hitting me with that your pointy head?" And he's like, "That's not my head." Like, oh my god.
The adults just keep getting them.
Oh god. And I'm just like, "Oh, it's your penis."
It's his penis.
Fatso's wiener is touching Stretch.
Oi, is that Fatso's wiener in there?
I want to be Loretta. I
Always
want you
look
to
at
call
the
me
bright side of
Loretta.
Fatso's penis.
Oh God. So next, it's like, what the fuck happens? It's like they go to the next day.
Yeah, it just kind of transitions because the next thing that I remember is that Kat enters the kitchen and Casper goes all ratatouille on her ass and starts making breakfast. Which it's funny you mentioned Robert Zemeckis before because there are a lot of Zemeckis moments in this. And who's the guy?
Yeah, like
Rick,
Doc Brown is probably Casper's dad's best friend from back
yeah,
in the day.
because like when it comes to like the breakfast and then like there's the Lazarus machine later
The
and
Up and Atom machine.
then there's the moment where Christina Ricci rebuilds all of Casper's toys and it's all this elaborate like Rube Goldberg shit. So like that's very Zemeckis with the schmaltz. But then who's it? Is it Joe Dante, Joe Dante, who did Gremlins?
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of shit that starts to remind me of Gremlins later on, especially with the uncles.
Yeah, but yeah, she walks in the kitchen and she's about to scream, and he wraps his body around her, and he's like, "No, please! If you scream, you'll wake up them, and they're cranky if they get woke up."
Yeah, he's constantly telling women not to scream. It's not.
Yes.
It's gross. Maybe not Ghostbusters. Maybe we should call like a Chris Hansen.
Yeah, you are correct, Casper. Would you sit in the chair?
Well, I don't sit. I float. Well, why don't you just float right over there?
Yeah, float right over there, Casper. Oh my God. Um, but so yeah, the breakfast machine, da 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 da, and he's just being an it's kids movie stuff, you know. And she's like, I don't know, over easy makes me sick or whatever. So he turns his hand into a fork,
Easy.
and he barely scrambles that egg.
Yeah, no, it's like they try to make it seem like it's this elaborate thing, but then I was kind of underwhelmed by it. I was uneasy by it, but no,
Yeah.
the uncles are affecting me because they're about to show up again, and they get like they come back and they're like, "Where's my meal?" I do like that before this, the dad's about to flip out, but like Casper's like, "No, no, no, let me make you some breakfast too." So they're kind of like, "Okay," but then the uncles come in. They're like, "Where's my meal? Why are you serving
Yes.
humans before us?" But like Fatso says like one line where they're eating that's like, "Oh, I feel like Oprah on hiatus," and I'm like, "Bruh."
Yeah, dude. And fucking Stretch is like, you look like Oprah on hiatus. Dude, that shit actually made me laugh. I thought that was pretty funny.
Bro, they got no chill.
Like, damn, y'all. Fucking talking about Oprah being fat. God damn, y'all.
Christina
Um,
Ricci finally fucking like tells them what it is, like that it's like you guys are fucking like bullies and pieces of shit, and there is
yeah.
like
She
as
says pissed off. Dude, kids left this movie knowing a lot more words than they knew coming in.
it's weird because I could see like the producers like thinking to throw this stuff in because it's like there's a lot of like 9-year-old Travises in the world that are like, ooh, it's a kids movie. But it's like, yeah, the tone and the look and the aesthetic of the movie is so kid friendly that it's like the cursing after a while does stand out. Like the hell
Yeah,
is fine, but like yeah, there's like and I'm not like complaining, but it's I'm just saying it does like stick out where you're like, whoa.
yeah, yeah. Especially as an adult, like I said, when I was 9, I just noticed when he called her a bitch at the end. But watching it now, I'm like, damn, they threw in a lot more cussing than I remember. And
Like
but we get bitch twice in this movie, not once, but twice.
yeah. And there is a good exchange of lines. Like Bill Pullman's walking Christina Ricci out, like, "Oh, you're gonna be late," and then like she tells them to drop dead, and one's like, "Too late." That was actually
Yeah,
good.
yeah. The and you know she gets to say piss off, but that's not the first time I ever heard piss off in a family movie when I was a child. When I was 7 years old, and we went to see Mrs. Doubtfire. When Robin Williams quits his job, he says, "Piss off, Lou." And my brother and I left that theater with a brand new word.
Piss off is a good one, especially with a fucking Australian accent. Piss off, fucking piss off.
Oh shit! But yeah, so like, but when he screams for his food, he's like, "Where is my meal?" Like, damn, dude. And they're eating. This is the one part where the CGI does look a little weird. Is the plates and food in front of them do look a little more cartoony than everything else.
I do like the detail though that it's like they're just like gobbling it up and then like it's falling through them and Casper like starts cleaning it up and they're like what are you doing that? I think that's where they say hell again like what the hell are you doing that for? And he's like,
Yeah. He's like, this was almost dirty enough to eat off of. Shut up.
yeah. I love I haven't even gotten to the school stuff yet.
Yeah, because we're about to go there because she's fighting with the ghosts and motherfucking, he's like, oh, you're going to be late for school. And so she's like, okay. So she heads to school, but let me smoke a cig real quick and then we'll get to school.
Hell yeah.
And now we're going to school.
Happy
So
day, everybody.
she's walking to school, and this girl just about runs her over on her bike. And then this other kid's coming behind her. And yeah, when Christina Ricci sees him, she's just like, oh my God, a boy.
Yeah. Like immediately, like you said, like Casper.
Yeah, falls for this dude like as quick as Casper fell for her. And um, so they get to school. I like how
The town
uh,
looks small town,
mhm.
the small time like Halloween feel. Again, it's very like I don't want to use the word subtle, but it's not as like pop out in your face as like other Halloween movies that like you'd even see marathoning on Freeform. But it understated, I guess, is the word. But it's still very nice. It's relaxing.
Yeah, leaves and shit everywhere. Like it looks chilly.
Like it's less overtly Halloween till like the end, but it's still just like this nice fall time, like autumn look.
Yeah. And so they get into class and they talk about, okay, the asbestos removal in the gym is going to take longer than expected. So we're going to have to move the Halloween dance a few weeks. And it's like, then Halloween's going to be over, dude.
The
And so,
removal in the gym is taking longer than expected. We had called a Ghostbuster for some reason, and he had told us to call somebody else.
and so bitchy girl gets up and she's like, well, my parents just finished the boathouse. We can all have the party there. And everybody's like, yeah, cool. And so the teacher dude's like, oh, we have a new student here today. And her name is Harvey Kathleen.
And everyone's like, I get that kids are dicks at that age, but like just the timing of it and the execution, it's like they really are just kind of laughing at nothing. Like even later,
Yeah.
the blonde girl who I never really caught the name of is like Harvey and starts laughing. I'm like, that's just a name.
Yeah. Her name was Amber.
Amber, that's it.
And so, yeah. And then
Yeah, I could do
Casper
the same. I could
is,
be like Amber. Like it's not. There's no insult.
yeah, exactly. And oh, yeah, when she says, actually, you can call me Cat, she goes, Row,
Yeah, there's that cat,
Row.
and everyone's like, yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
everybody's like, oh my God, you're so funny, blonde bitchy girl.
Casper watching through the Mount Rushmore is genuinely spooky. Like it's supposed to be like this kind of little wink, wink, like cutesy moment, but I'm like, no, that actually sent a chill up my spine.
Yeah, and then he starts tying the shoes of all these children, and
That's a good gag.
it goes against some things because they say several times ghosts can't hurt you, but this movie several times proves that wrong.
They can manipulate their environment, and the environment hurts you.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a loop.
Uh, except for the end, man, when she fucking damn donkey punches his ass into the night.
Oh yeah, wouldn't it just like go through him? She uses the power of hate to manifest her fist into his chest. That is
Seriously.
cool.
But so she mentioned that she lives at the Whipstaff Manor, and everyone's like, "What? You live there?" And so, like, based off of the beginning of the movie, in town, everybody knows this place to be creepy, scary, and possibly haunted. And Then this one random kid just imposes the Halloween party on her. Like, hey, she got a house that's big enough and it's creepy. Let's have the Halloween party there. And they're like, yeah. And bitchy blonde girl's like, what? Thought we were having the party at my place. And dude's like, well, whoever wants to do it at Amber's house, raise your hand. And nobody wants to go to her boathouse. But I'm like, damn, you don't even know this girl, and you're saying, hey, let's have the Halloween party at your house.
Yeah, it shifts like in an instant.
Yeah. And so,
So
right.
popular and cool. Bro, does
Yeah.
your farmer live there?
Oh, so yeah, that's the end of class because they get up and like that's another thing. Like, what class is this? I mean, they just started and they introduce her, and then the bell rings, and then they get up and they all trip. What class was this? What are they doing?
Attendance and like, I don't know. Just
Like for real, makes no damn sense. So now we have
Dr. Harvey is trying to do like therapy sessions with the uncles, like that they look at the dead Amelia's photo and they mention that like, oh yeah, well, the conceptually alone, just like doing therapy sessions with ghosts is an interesting concept. But they look at the picture of the dead wife and they're like, oh yeah, I've seen her. Uh, you know,
she's real nice.
he asks, if there's a way of contacting other ghosts, and they say like it's really complicated, but they kind of set up like a little deal of the devil. And it's like, oh yeah, if you keep, the Carrigan off of our ass, basically, we'll do it for you. And he agrees, and Fatso like quickly goes off to assumedly like, is that a word? Like assumedly, but to you assume get Amelia, but it's
Yeah.
cruel fake out. It is pretty fucked up, actually.
It is fucked up, but it is pretty damn funny.
Classic gag of like, the cartoon character dressed in drag, and then like, oh my man.
Yeah, he's like, my man. Yeah, they're just laughing at him, and he gives him a big old kiss, and it's like, damn, you just sexually assaulted him, dude. Like, this is just, we're not too far from that movie Entity at this point.
Right.
God damn.
Oh great. Now I'm having like that music in my head with this can I keep you? Like whatever the fuck that music is, drum.
Seriously. Damn. But yeah, so what happens now? That scene just kind of ends,
So
and
comes by this. There's another cruel fake out ahead because Vic comes by the mansion to see Kat, and she doesn't let him in. But they do step outside, and Casper's like mimicking Vic from behind, which is again supposed to be like a cutesy scene, but it's like, dude, leave me the fuck alone. Um, and Kat accepts the date with Vic, which hurts Casper's feelings. But like, this is all just a cruel setup from the bullies because like Amber's hiding behind the tree, like,
I know, and it's annoying that they have Vic feel bad about it. I would rather him be in on it like she is. You know what I mean? Because
especially
like when he walks up, she's like, "Did you do it?" And he's like, "Yeah, this bites." I'm just like,
and
just
why,
let him be a dick too.
yeah, it's like if this bites, then why are you doing it? And number two, it's like this is where the movie, like especially near the end, it's like it does get like too many subplots going on. It breaks them
Yeah,
up like, decently, but it's still like for a Casper movie, it's like stick to like one or two of the things.
yeah. Because then too, like both villain arcs have bitchy blonde lady with flaccid little worm.
You're right. Yeah, I didn't even realize that. So it is kind of like, yeah, and the other villains that we've established, like we mentioned before, just like drop off for a little bit.
Yeah, and so yeah, we get goofy guy and bitchy blonde lady 2.0, and then they drop off, and so now we're in the house, and Casper is all whiny and mopey, and talking about fucking, well, what does he have that I don't? And she's like, flesh. He's like, trying to be cool. And she's like, well, how about a reflection? And he looks in the mirror. Then he's like, well, then can he do this? And he like puts on a superhero thing and does a Arnold Schwarzenegger voice, and weirdly funnily enough, the guy doing the Schwarzenegger voice is the voice of Wacko from Animaniacs.
Huh. Interesting. Okay. I didn't know that. It's a pretty effective. I thought they just had gotten Arnold. It was another cameo. That's really good. Um, Casper goes flying with Kat, and she's saying no and screaming. But then, as they
Yeah,
fly, it immediately cuts to them on a lighthouse, and she's like, "Casper, like calm as can be, like Casper, this is
yeah,
beautiful."
because
And I,
he's dragging her, man. He's dragging her out of the house, pissed off that she does not want to date him, and
oh my
he
god, yeah,
throws
this
her off
was
the
real at
balcony.
first. Like I wrote in my notes, like number one, what happened between cuts from her screaming to being calm? Like what did he do to her? And then my other note was like, this is terrifying. Please call the Ghostbusters again.
But yeah, so he throws her off the balcony and then catches her. And when you see how he caught her, he just caught her by the foot. So she's just dangling there, man.
All the
And
blood flowing to her head.
she's just like, this is too high, Casper. This is high. And you're right. It just cuts to them on the lighthouse. And
And they try to make you feel bad for Casper. Like it's really tonally odd because like that was creepy. Then we get like the sad kind of like, oh, I don't remember anything from my past. Like, is that bad? And they're like, no, it's just sad. But then it cuts to like him in bed with her, and he's like up her ass, just like, Cat, blah 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 blah. Cat, could I ask you this? Cat, can I keep you?
yeah, just so fucking ugh. And she's clearly fucking falling
Like
asleep. She ain't
he
having
seems
none of
like
this
he's about to
shit.
possess her. And he's like, if I were alive, would you bring me to the dance? And even she's kind of like, it's because she's fallen asleep, like the movie's trying to say, but it's like, I know, like, even in her head, she's like, I'm not answering that question.
Yeah, and then he curls up at her feet like a fucking dog.
You. Ugh, when there's something strange sleeping in your bed.
And so we cut to the next day, and this is one long ass fucking day.
Yeah, dude. Like, honestly, I started to lose track of time in the movie because I'm like, oh, this is all still in the same night.
Yeah, this is one long fucking day.
The last half of
Because
the movie becomes basically like Clerks, where it's like, oh, we're just all in one day.
she gets up in the morning and wanders around the house and finds all this shit in the attic and in his bedroom. And at the same time, well, actually, no, she gets downstairs and she's talking to her dad about, I found your credit card. I want this. There's this fucking dress that I want to wear. And he's talking about, well, you always make your own costume. She's like, yeah, but I want to look date nice. And he's like, oh man, do we need to have the talk? And she's like, it's a little late for that, Dad. He's like, what? She's like, no, wait, not that late. And it's like, whoa.
Yeah, this is awkward.
Oh shit. Um, and so then yeah, she finds all the Casper shit, and then damn Harvey's over there talking with the ghost again, and he's packing up because he's pissed off how they treated him with the whole dead wife scenario. And they're like, fuck, man, we need to cheer him up. Happy hour. So they take him to a bar at like 8 in the morning.
Yeah, that's mysteriously open because Maine just plays like that, I guess. But
And
it's weird that when Kat opens up the crate, like I had written in the notes, that's a mysterious crate because I thought it was going to be the treasure at first. It ultimately leads to the treasure, but yeah, no, it's just Casper's old toys.
yeah. And so Harvey's at the bar with the uncles for the whole fucking day. And yeah, so we follow Kat running around. Then she gets up with Casper and she's like, "Here, I want to show you something." And she's got all his toys set up. And he's like, "Whoa, I remember." And then like the train goes off, and he's like, "Hootie!" And we need to fix that and be like, play a Hootie and the Blowfish song.
You and me, we come from different worlds, like literally, like the ethereal world.
With a little bit of love and some tenderness. And yeah, so then he takes her to the attic, and fucking while all this is going on, Dibbs and Kerrigan finally show back up, and they're peeking through the windows. Um, and that's when they see. In fact, this is before Harvey and the motherfuckers leave because they're watching Harvey talking to the uncles. And when the uncles take him off to the bar, they're like, "Oh, he got the ghost out of the house. We can go in here and find the treasure." And it's almost annoying to me in movies when like there's a possible fortune and they just call it treasure.
Yeah, because it's almost I'm thinking it's like Goonies style, like one-eyed Willie treasure, and it's like it is. There's a treasure chest, but it's like kind of just in a lab. It's kind of just money.
Yeah. Um. So they're wandering around through the house while she's showing all this crap to Casper, and he's starting to remember. And he's like, "Oh yeah, this is a sled that I wanted. I remember asking my dad for this sled, but he wouldn't give it to me. But then he did, and I remember playing on it all day. And then it got dark. Then it got cold. Then I got sick. And then my dad got sad."
And then I got sad, and then I got dead.
I got dead. And
Dude, yeah. And then there's the line where it's like, "What's it like to die?" And then it's like being born only backwards. And I did like that wide-eyed, like faced emoji, and I'm like, "Whoa!" And then there's a note in the attic that mentions a machine called the Lazarus that brings spirits back to life. And I put two of those faces. I'm like, double whoa. Like conceptually, this is actually like pretty interesting sci-fi. The Lazarus. Like I don't think that was in the original cartoon.
and yeah, and you see little bits in the newspaper about McFadden child dies. So if your kid,
Casper McFadden.
yeah, if you're famous enough in town to have the death of your kid make the newspaper, he must have been a pretty prestigious guy in town. And then there's the other newspaper that says declared criminally or declared insane or some shit.
Yeah.
So it doesn't end well for Casper's dad. They sent him to the loony bin.
But then he gives um Cat a white dress that what did he say was like his mom's?
Yeah, he said it was his mom's, which is just another weird thing. She's like, "Oh my god, it's so perfect. Can I keep it?" Only
Yeah,
if I can keep
I
you.
wear it to the dance, and like, yeah, it's really weird because it's like it's sentimental, yes, but it's like not even that nice of a dress, to be honest.
Yeah, Yeah, and it's got to be stinky. It's got to be dingy. It's been in that chest for at least 50 something years.
Got
Uh,
fucking Uncle Goo all over it. It's probably stiff.
yeah, seriously. I'm sure there weren't any mothballs in there. Damn. But what annoys me is, all right, it was my mom's, so he puts it on her, and it's clearly slightly too big for her, especially at the sleeves and the arms. Well, she goes and she ties the little belt piece, and now it fits her perfectly for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, just convenient.
And yeah, so he's like, "Oh man, I remember what my dad was trying to do." And he's like, "Follow me," and he grabs her and he goes to the wall. She slams into the wall, which I thought was a pretty good gag.
And then they go down to the lab and they see what's on the lab.
Yeah. And yeah, so he's like, my dad hid it, so nobody could find it. And that's when old Dibs and Kerrigan are like, oh no, that's the treasure. And so she's like, Casper, wall, human. And yeah, it's a false wall.
See, where like they're going through, like the villains are following behind, and there's a bunch of like little booby traps and like cobwebs and shit to get to the lab. Since they're human, they can't just like they're fumbling through it. Um, with the Lazarus machine, it takes like this weird like juice that I just referred to as Lazarus juice. But of course, it has one left for like one more resurrection. So Cat
Yeah,
rejoices that he's gonna be alive.
but she gets on the chair. This kind of stuff annoys me. It's cool to see, but it is so impractical. So to get to the lab, you get
Like
on a chair.
Marcus Burton like haunted chair ride hijinks.
Yeah, the chair goes down the stairs, and it is funny when she goes down because it's like you see her go down into the basement, you just see poof, fucking dust fly everywhere. But then it's like a it's like a car wash. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
she's riding in the chair, and then the thing brushes her teeth, and then
just kind of brush.
uh, fucking shaving cream, and then two straight razors. That is dangerous. That is not shaving anybody's face. Uh, and then uh, the water spraying on her, and then the air dryer. It's like those fucking car washes where you sit in your car and you go through the thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, why? And then a bow tie. It puts a bow tie on you.
Just for one last fucking bit of comedy.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid. Why does this need? Why can't you just? I mean, we wouldn't have a movie. We wouldn't have a scene if you could just walk into the lab. But yeah. Yeah, they're walking around in there, and she sees a Frankenstein book and opens it and hits the button, and it brings this thing out of the water. And while all this is going on, there's a ring at the door, and it's like, oh shit, the party. And so she runs, huh?
Like fuck, that's still going on.
Yeah. And it's like, fuck, I forgot. So she runs over there, lets everybody in. She's like, and I'll be back. Just start having fun. So then she goes back down there, and he's showing her the Lazarus juice. And they're about to start using it to bring him back to life. And then you see Kerrigan's hand pull the Lazarus juice out of the machine, and it clearly doesn't work. She opens it, and now he is a fucking egg.
Which was a pretty good gag. Am I alive?
Yeah, a pretty good gag, but at the same time, because he's like, "Am I alive?" And then his face starts melting. Um, But at the same time, like, why? Why'd you turn into an egg?
Yeah.
But so Kerrigan and Dibbs are running through the house. They're like, "Yeah, man, we got this Lazarus juice that can bring people back from the dead." And he's like, "Yeah, so we could be we can get in that vault if one of us was if you were a ghost." And she's like, "No, if you were a ghost." And so she starts chasing him around the house with this axe. She's like, "It'll only be a second."
Yeah.
And he's wearing a fucking suit of armor and spills this bucket of shit all over the floor. And she fucking Home Alone slips on the shit. And
Surprisingly, doesn't like split her head open right there.
yeah. And he gets outside with the juice, and then she tries to run him over, and I don't know. She gets off track and crashes on a cliff, and she. This is funny. She goes to walk out of the car and just wow down to the rocky depths.
Yeah. Is it weird to say that was actually pretty satisfying? Like, I know she's going to come back, but split second, Eric Idle gets like the one up on her.
Yeah, it's like all right, and fucking. So he grabs the fucking juice and he's just like, yeah. And then no, she comes back as a ghost. And so now we cut back to the bar. Well, not cut back to the bar, but we cut to the bar. And it is the shittiest looking bar. You know, it almost looks like it's a room in their house.
Yeah, it doesn't really have a lot of personality.
Yeah, and he's singing some fucking Elvis, and he's drunk as shit with the ghosts, and the fucking ghosts are like, "Oh man, we've been the ghostly trio for so long. Let's make it a quartet."
I
So
do
they
like
want
that line.
say what?
I do like that line.
Yeah, yeah. So they want to fucking kill him, and but what's crazy is while all of this is going on, there's one dude at the bar seeing all this shit going on. Is he just used to ghosts?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, the Empire State Building, not the Empire State Building, the Statue of Liberty came to life and roamed through the city streets on New Year's Eve. I'm used to it.
And what is this, 1995? So just a few years before that, some kids were being killed by a clown in one town over.
Well, that's the thing. That's the whole reason why there's something wrong with Derry. They don't pay any mind, like Beverly said, when the old man
Yeah,
went back into his house.
yeah. And so they're trying to kill him, but he's all like being all sentimental with them. He's like, "You guys remind me of hanging out with the boys and shit." And then he fucking kisses them and all this. Fucking like, damn, you are one touchy feely drunk. Um, and so then they're like, "Oh, we don't want to kill him." And it's funny when he throws the gun and it goes off and it shoots the ceiling and it all lands on that random dude in the bar.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Yeah, we're so he da da da. Let's get out of here." So he opens the fucking front doors of the place, and there's like a construction hall. What the fuck is this? What's going on here? And he falls to his death. So I don't. This is one shitty ass bar because he mentions we're gonna hit every bar in town, and it's like,
That's the one.
yeah, what's going on here? You got this. What is this like the fifth floor of this building? What the fuck is this? What is this? What is this hole right at the front door?
It's just in the mansion.
I know it
And
makes
that
no
guy's
fucking
Lloyd.
sense.
He's one of the ghosts, that one patron.
And so they're back at, and she's like blowing. Oh my god, she's blowing Casper.
Ooh. Boston
with
makes me feel good. We did it. We got it, ladies and gentlemen. I still got some in me.
Oh shit. Yeah, so she's got the bellows and she's popping him back up. And so now they're like, why didn't it work? And motherfucking Kerrigan busts up in there, right? Is this what happens?
Kerrigan busts in there. She's the fucking ghost now. There's the bitches back line before, like when
Yeah. She says, the bitch is back.
which just really makes me want to listen to some Elton John. Honestly, it's not
Yeah.
threatening. It's just like good tune. Nice. I understood that reference.
And what is also funny is fucking Ghost Kerrigan and Ghost Bill Pullman both have clothes and hair. So
Yeah, right.
does that mean Casper and his uncles died bald and naked?
Right. It's pretty weird. Like I wouldn't mind them still having like the likeness of like it in the face, but yeah, I don't know why they went with that choice because yeah, Bill Pullman still got like the jacket.
Yeah, it's weird. And so yeah, she's like, I got this Lazarus thing, and
I get it.
here's the
Kerrigan's supposed to be like the villain, so you want to still like design her to be all like spooky and evil, like witchy looking. But yeah, for
yeah,
Bill Pullman's character, it kind of would have been funnier, especially given the goofy nature of the character, if he was just this bald, blobby ghost.
yeah, and she gets the little treasure box, and she I like when she lets out that laugh when you see all the people in the party, and they're like, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah,
Uh,
because the
but
party's
yeah,
still technically like getting started. You know what I mean? They're all just kind of like, what the fuck's going on? The bullies are planning like their plots. They're gonna do like a Carrie style, like we're gonna embarrass the shit out of Cat.
yeah, and fucking so Dibs comes up in there, and she's like, "Now put me in the machine, Dibs," and he's like, "No, I've got the power. I've got the treasure." And he's
Yeah,
like,
I
"You
like
can
that
haunt
before that,
me."
like Dibbs is fighting with Casper, and he's like, "Don't come near me, you spiteful spook. I'm not going
Yeah,
into the next world."
yeah. And fucking, he's like, "Well, I'm gonna have the money, and I'm gonna get a house with green carpet and purple wallpaper, and a little dog, a bitch named Kerrigan,
And
just like you."
fucking, she fucking punts him a million miles out the window, which is a pretty cool effect because this is like
Yeah,
it's still in the age of the '90s where it's like we're using CGI, but not everything is CG'd. So it's like you got a stuntman on a wire flying out the window. It's pretty fun. And I mean, he's dead. He's fucking dead. We don't see him
yeah,
come back as a ghost, but he's dead.
yeah. She's
Nice.
like, "You got a fight to catch." And so then they, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Casper and fucking Cat are like, "Oh, we know what to do. What about your unfinished business?" She's like, "What the fuck is that?" And he's like, "Well, ghosts have unfinished business." She's like, "I don't have any unfinished business. I have everything I need." And then light starts coming through her, and she's like, "No, you tricked me, you little rotten rats," or some shit. And then poof into sparks.
And you know it's very violent. It's kind of an Indiana Jonesy death because it's like these lights, like these godlike beams of light are like ripping through her before she finally just like poofs. But it still kind of does fit into like Ghostbusters canon where it's not as peaceful as we see Egon pass into the other life as in Afterlife, But it's still accurate to what Phoebe says in Frozen Empire. Like, her particles basically just fucking disband.
And yeah, so they're like, all right. And then, boom, here comes Ghost Dad.
Zip, zop, zoom, bop. But not that bad.
Yeah. And he's already forgetting her and making jokes and being silly and trying to hang out with the stinky crew.
The
And
Stinky Crew. That's going to be the new name of the podcast.
this.
Welcome back to the Stinky Crew.
What up, Dick Lickers? Welcome back.
Stinkers.
Welcome back to the Stinky Crew.
The Stinky.
Yeah,
but
and
he remembers who she is through like their little pinky promise memento.
She does it, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember."
Fuck.
A little pull the finger joke.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so fucking bad. And she's barely upset about this. Like, if you notice, like, she kind of wants to cry, but it's almost like you could see her going through her mind, like, this might be all right.
Like, yeah, I don't know the rules of this universe, so it's like he might be fine.
Yeah, because even then, when Casper grabs the Lazarus juice, he's like, yeah, he needs this more than I do. And she's all like, Casper, like, kind of questioning why he's doing that. And it's like, bitch, he's about to bring your dad back.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a bittersweet thing for Casper. Like, he remains a ghost, which it is expected. I mean, this is the Casper movie. It would be weird if it did, like... He kind of gets to have his cake and eat it too, though, once we see later on. But for the time being, it's like, oh, it's bittersweet. I saved your dad, but I'm still a ghost.
Yeah, and when he starts to remember who she is, he's all like, oh, no, I'm sorry, Cat. What did I do? And it's like, dude,
oh, fuck it.
You were drunk as fuck and you fell down a hole.
Some typical dad shit, really.
And so they put him in the machine and turn it on, and then boom, Bill Pullman walks out. So another question here.
It remembered its clothes.
Yeah, where the fuck is his body? Did it zap his dead body from the ground at the bar?
Yeah, is he in like a 3D printed like new body? Does he feel healthier than he did before? Like,
yeah, like does this work like the teleporters, the theory on teleporters in Star Trek?
Or like, is it like the Fly? If something would have flown in there, would he have come out like a weird hybrid?
Yeah, like it breaks down his molecules and shit, and then reassembles them. And how does this fucking work?
Well,
So
it'll be about to be over, so don't question it.
yeah, it's almost over, children. Um, but yeah, so they're like, oh yeah, fuck the party, and so they go to start the party, and she's hanging out, and then you see the asshole kids, and she has makeup on and she's on his shoulder. She's like, she is gonna freak. I'm thinking, what is she gonna freak about? Like, you're just
a person.
Just wearing fucking face paint and a sheet.
The bullies get their comeuppance.
Yeah, Stinky and Fatso pop out through them and say some shit. And they
getting out of the fucking party. Bah, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, and it is kind of funny when he's running with her on the shoulders, and then she gets like fucking clotheslined.
That's what you get.
And he just drags her out of the house. But it's like Cat didn't know that he was like a dick. So she's like, oh, the little dude I wanted here is not gonna be here. And so then, like, out of nowhere, Casper sees a fucking apparition floating out the window. This is so dumb to me. the way she's waving her arms.
With the dress, and then it's like woo, and it's funny that so it's Kat's dead mom, and she shows up to Casper first, and
Yeah.
like gives Casper like a she calls it like a Cinderella scenario where like until it is funny that she is a mom. It's like, oh, Cinderella had till 12. It's like you have till 10. But if anything,
Yeah.
this is more of like a Pinocchio scenario. Like I'm gonna make you a real boy.
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna be a
I mean,
real
I guess
boy
I
for
was a real boy once, but
you're gonna be a real boy for 15 minutes.
for like half a second. So better move quick.
Yeah. And he's just like, are you, are you? She's like, yeah. His cat's mom. God.
And then it's
And
for a very schmaltzy 90s piano track, which honestly feels more fitting in a Christmas movie than a Halloween movie. Feels like this would be in like, even though this came out after the Casper movie, like it feels like it would be in like the Michael Keaton, Jack Frost, all these fucking between the schmaltzy 90s piano songs and then like the bluesy dad rock songs.
it looks like Titanic when fucking alive Casper is walking down the stairs.
Yeah, dude, it
It,
does.
hey, and James Horner scored that movie too.
Connections. It's in that universe too. I mean, the Titanic still happened.
Yeah.
You can't erase that tragedy.
And fucking yeah, so this is Devin Sawa
Oh,
from
really?
Idle Hands. Huh?
It's Devon Sawa, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Uh fucking Final Destination and Slackers.
He was
Um
Stan in the fucking Eminem music video.
yeah, yeah, he was fucking Stan.
He was in
He
that movie
plays
The
in
Fanatic with John Travolta, like not too long ago, a couple years back, where he
oh,
was like
was
a
he?
celebrity that John Travolta was stalking.
The movie that Fred Durst made?
Yeah,
Awesome. I still gotta see that shit.
yeah, I gotta
Damn
watch it in full, but it is quite notorious.
but yeah, old fucking Devin Sawa walking around and they start dancing and she don't even know who it is. She's just happy a guy is wanting to dance with her because she's sitting there moping. Everybody starts dancing and she's sitting there just moping. And so he walks up, grabs her hand, and they start dancing. And then you see him float up, and she looks down. She's like, "Oh no, what the fuck?" And then he says it again. Can I keep you? She's like,
Yeah, just
Casper?
says it's me, you know.
Yeah. She's like, oh, Casper, what? So they're dancing, and then you got Ghost Mom finally comes to see the dad. Uh, and he's all like, oh man, I would have had a lot to say, but I don't have nothing to say. And fucking Ghost Mom's like, you're doing a good job with Cat. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And she's like, ugh. She tells him fucking no French fries for breakfast. What the fuck?
Yeah, you're
And
not
then
doing
she's
a job if that's the thing.
yeah, and then she's like, well, let's just say you know a few ghosts who kept their word. And it's like, aw, the stinky crew decided to go ahead and give her a call.
Who are you gonna call? Aw. And then he goes, apologize later, and slams the door in her face.
Yeah. And then so she ghostly whooshes back into the
Ghostly
window.
whooshes. She spoons the dune back into the other realm.
Yeah. And so this is another question. All right. Why the fuck is she a human spirit?
Yeah, she's not CG. She's a real ass spirit.
Yeah. Why the fuck doesn't she look like the other ghosts? Is like, so I guess if you cross over, you get back in your normal form.
Yeah, do you become more like gloopy and blobby, like the more in the human realm you stay? Is it like a pure of heart kind of thing?
Oh yeah, you know what? We could even say the Frighteners is in this universe, because the long ghosts decay in Frighteners. Like I said, there's a lot of cool ghost rules in the Frighteners. So yeah, maybe they were fairly normal. Maybe they did have clothes and hair when they first became ghosts, like fucking James and Cardigan, right? But the longer they're ghosts, they the more they forget about the world before, and the more, like you said, globby and goopy they become.
Yeah, that it's not like a cutesy, like it actually makes them scarier, that it's not like a cutesy like ghost design. It's like they are actually like you said, decaying.
Yeah.
They're in pain
Crazy.
constantly. That's why the uncles are such dicks. That's what makes Casper even more pure of heart, is that like
Oh,
he just endures the pain.
and then he did say too, like she said, "What's it like being a ghost? What does it feel like?" And he says, "Well, you know that sensation when your foot's falling asleep? It's kind of like that. And when
Oh, I
your
would
foot
hate
falls
that
asleep,
constantly.
yeah, when you get that tingleness and that fucking, I would hate to feel that all
Yeah, I
the
don't like
time.
that kind of tingle. I would all over your body too. Fuck that.
God, Jesus Christ, the horror."
The horror.
So Ghost Mom disappears, and now it's 10 o'clock, and fucking Casper throws a kiss on, and then he turns into the ghost. And I do like this shot too, where she opens her eyes and she's like, "Oh shit," and
Yeah,
she sees all the kids through his head.
because it could go either way. Like they could all be like, "Whoa, what a cool effect," and all like applaud. But I like that it's like, "Oh, the final scare." They all, "What?" Monster
Yeah.
style
And when
flee.
she sees them through his head, like they got this crazy fisheye lens thing going on. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was a nice angle.
And yeah, they all run out of there. It's full on monsters, even down to like the hair shooting up.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of like they sped up the footage a little bit, so it's like as they're like running
Yeah,
out.
which is funny because like all the other times, like the characters got scared from seeing the ghost, it wasn't that cartoony with like hair sticking up and shit. But like, no, they went for it right here. So I'm glad that I appreciate they only did it for the last one. Like if every time somebody saw a ghost and hair went up like that, it would have been annoying.
Yeah, right.
And fucking, it's funny as shit. After they all leave, she's standing there, and then the speakers fall over, and then the fucking disco ball just fucking drops, and he's like,
And
"Well,
she gets one more snarky line. Not bad for my first party.
yeah,
That's
Jesus
okay.
Christ,
That's a good ending line.
it is." And the dad's like, "Well, the party's not over yet. Hit it, boys!" And then yeah, it's Stinky Crew fucking starting to play a Little Richard tune.
The version of the Casper the Friendly Ghost theme in a bluesy, rocky Little Richard's theme in like a very in an ending that if you just played like Jump on the Line, it would just be like the ending of Beetlejuice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it worked that Casper already had his own theme song, because of the cartoon.
Casper the Friendly Ghost. It is an earworm.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And the rock and roll piano in it is a jam.
Yeah, the
Um,
bluesy rockabilly. It's good.
yeah, the Chuck Berry kind of style shit.
It's much better than Whoop Adam's Family. Whoop.
Oh, dude, you ain't lying. Thank God. Thank God they did not do that.
I heard that
Uh,
again, like during the Freeform marathon this Halloween season, and I was like, ugh.
that is the worst thing about that movie.
You know, the movie's good.
Yeah,
But
the entire movie is fantastic from start to finish, but when it ends and it's that whoop, there it is kind of shit. Whoop,
it's
whoop,
not even like
Adam
clever.
Family.
Whoop
The
Adam's
what? So bad. But yeah, so yeah, thank God we didn't get that because we very well could have. It was 1995. We very well fucking could have. Coolio was top of the charts. You know what I mean? Or was about to be top.
Kel. Or he was gonna do Keenan and Kel.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, here it goes. Boom, 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 boom. That's a killer track, though.
Yeah,
That Keenan, that's a killer track.
but yeah,
Damn.
that's basically Casper.
Yeah, and to me, like, I'd have been fine if it had just faded out with the dancing, but I get annoyed. Casper comes flying up and he winks at us. Like, I didn't need that. I don't need Casper winking at me, breaking the fucking fourth wall and shit, and then
And
he
during the
shits out
credits,
the end out of his ass.
and then during the credits, like the uncles are like ripping open the credits and throwing their CG faces like into the camera.
Were they really?
Or I saw something like that. Yeah,
Oh my
I
God,
just
yeah.
crazy.
I turned it off at the credits. I didn't watch the credits.
You're like it's over. Which again, yeah, I didn't hate it, but like I said at the beginning, it's definitely a product of its time. Not my favorite thing in the world, but it definitely kept my attention, got my imagination flowing with possible sequel ideas. But that's more so the Ghostbusters fan in me. Uh,
Yeah, this is.
Post of
Keep
mine
going.
soon. Like I'm gonna keep like working that in to like future ideas.
Yeah, this movie I like it a lot, mostly because of being a kid. It's one of those movies that it's up there with Hocus Pocus kind of shit. Just early to mid '90s Halloween crap, you
It's
know. And
remembered by my generation. Like I said, it still gets played. I'm sure like people around my age or a little older who are becoming parents, like they're passing it down to their kids. So
yeah, and they you
it's
know,
still
and one of the last movies that really did that was like the tail end of the '90s was with the Halloween Town and shit, and you know all that stuff is pretty fun. And then I like how here recently they kind of tried to do this with like the Goosebumps movies and shit. Uh, but yeah, the movie's pretty good. I'm gonna give it a 7.
yeah, I think like if it were to get a numbered rating, like 6 or 7, maybe even
And
like a 5, the lowest. Just
and
about.
yeah, it's even like even though I'm mostly annoyed by the uncles at first, and then they finally take a step back. Her snarky comments, I get it, but they just aren't good,
Like I said,
and it's
like
more.
hateable or like completely unbearable for too long.
Yeah, it's just derp jokes, and but for what it is, it's pretty good. But damn it, if the effects, I'm gonna say a good 99% of the effects to this day still look pretty freaking incredible. And well, maybe I'll say 95% of the effects
Do you
still
think?
look pretty incredible.
Do you think
You will
Casper,
believe a man can ghost.
you will believe a spoon can do?
Yeah. And the sets of the movie are fantastic and all of that. So yeah, it's a decent 7.
Would you say that like Casper needs like a sequel or like a reboot nowadays, or like maybe an all animated, like bigger budget, like kind of movie?
No, I'm gonna say leave this where it is. It doesn't need a sequel. I'm surprised it hasn't happened with people. You know, surprised Universal hasn't been like, what else? What else can we reboot?
Facts.
But if it makes the movie less special if they do make a fucking sequel to this, which I'm cool with the Beetlejuice sequel. You know what I'm saying? I'm fine with that. And fucking Hocus Pocus 2, still haven't seen it, but I'm glad they did it. But this one, go ahead and leave this one alone.
And speaking of Hocus Pocus 1 and 2, I guess that'll be our next year's uh, graveyard smash. Like, this is more of like a graveyard smash, like post, or like whatever you want to call it, post graveyard smash. but we
Yeah.
did it. We've done all the live action Ghostbusters content.
Yeah, and Ghostbusters is finally over.
And I'm glad that we found the original review and got it uploaded to YouTube. So now, like, that could almost be like a separate, like, Fresh from the Basement playlist in and of itself. I was thinking about it today, like, how over the years you would kind of, like, chronicle Fresh from the Basement. And I would say, like, from the early top tens up until, like, I would say even, like, the end of the Kevin Smith retrospective, even though that was really long, that was a few years, like with breaks, like and stops in between. I would say like that's season one, and then from then on, which makes sense because then like if we're still in season two, if you will, or if we did move on to season two, it's like, oh, season one had the Kevin Smith retrospective, season two had the Rob Zombie.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad that I found that. I tried so fucking hard. I can still find them, the Horrorphilia versions, but I can't fucking download them. Um, but so Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, as of right now, is still missing. But I was able to find the the render, the actual copy of our first Ghostbusters episode. So at least we have that complete. Because that was the first one we did like this, just talking about a single movie and shit. And I hated that that thing disappeared. But that was also at a time when I was adding trailers and music and stuff, and only putting them on Horrorphilia because we wouldn't get copywritten.
Yeah, but now like stuff like that's not going to happen again because we're like primarily through YouTube. I don't remember. Do we still upload to Spotify?
Uh, when I put, I gotta send all this shit to fucking Phil Perrin, who runs darkdiscussions.com. I got to send him the past several episodes. But yeah, when he puts them on that website, they go on Spotify and all that. Like if you type in Fresh from the Basement, Spotify or Apple, it pulls this stuff up.
So yeah, make sure to check that out, Basement Dwellers, if you're ever on the go or you're looking for other ways to listen to us. We are available on Spotify. But aside from that, like you can mostly find all the new episodes here. I'm really impressed with like number one, the recording quality of doing it through Skype since we've gotten this format down, and two, how quickly you're able to upload them like within the day we record basically.
Yeah, I hate that I spent so many years just recording this on my camera uh because it doesn't sound good.
No.
It sounds, you could tell you're coming through a laptop speaker and I'm sounding okay, but I think it sounds way better recorded through Skype like this. I don't know why I never fucking did that shit.
Yeah, I
and,
agree. It sounds a lot
and you're right.
smoother.
Like when we're done talking, I download the audio files. That just takes a minute or so, and then boom, I'm already throwing them on the editing software. Whereas before, you and I would talk for, like with this one, 2.5 hours. It would take 2.5 to 3 hours to to copy that file from my camera to the computer.
Yeah, no, it was a real pain in the ass. Like where this, and it can only get better from here. Like again, I want to still play around with more mics, see if we could get even like smoother quality going on. But right now, it's pretty good. I've mentioned before how it's just a detail that I've noticed that Skype, when we record it this way, it tends to focus in on whoever's talking. Like so, there's a little bit less cut off. I've noticed the conversations go a lot smoother as well. Of course, it's still over the internet, so there are still times where we'll talk over each other or there will be like delays, but it's a lot less than normal.
Yeah.
What quote unquote normal.
Yeah. But yeah, let us know what you think about Casper.
Yeah, we will catch you back with Dune either next week or coming soon. We will spoon the Dune. But
Yeah.
aside from that, like I said, you could catch us here on Bloody Chuckle Studios YouTube, uh, on the Dark Discussion Spotify, or Fresh from the Basement Spotify. You can look us up. Apple. I am on FDV Productions on YouTube, but I'm also Frank Del Vecchio on Facebook. You could follow our Facebook group, The Basement, Fresh from the Facebook group. I'm also on Instagram, FDV Productions, or The FDV Production. And yeah, I also do gaming with my buddy Mo on the channel Crew Boys. So those are all my links. Go check me out.
Yeah, you can find our music under Monster and the Family and Sticky Middle Finger on Spotify and all other streaming services. And you can see all of our music videos and podcasts on this YouTube and the this podcast is also on Spotify and Apple under Fresh from the Basement. And yeah, you can see my Instagram under Bloody Chuckle Studios, and you can follow our Speaker Brains Facebook group. And yes, that's that.
And also, I guess in the Tromaverse, keep an eye out for new movies such as The Power of Positive Murder and Slaughter at Camp Swine Lake. Two awesome movies that I got to work on this year, and I'm very honored to have done.
Hell yeah.
But aside from that, basement dwellers, dick lickers.
We will talk to y'all later.
Later, buttheads.
Later, Dibs.
You bunch of dibs.
What kind of man calls himself Dibs?
Yeah. That's what the Christina Ricci should have been responding to. Like, oh, you're fucking, what cruel parents.
Seriously. But we will see y'all later.
Later.